trying to find something.
Bienvenue. Welcome once again to another IPSA kind of magic, or IPSA, as some people like to say. But whether it's an acronym or not, I'm glad we're here because this is all about celebrating what IPSA is all about, which is a fellowship of people helping to, as they say, all tides rise, all ships. Today's topic is all about due diligence or data dump. Hamish, will you get us going, please?
Well, the best known, not these days. We need to go back to last time. The best two Ds that ever belonged together were double diamond. We no longer have that, but we have due diligence or data dump.
I have to say when I'm thinking of double D, I think of something else. But anyway, moving on. Carry on.
All right. Yes. Okay. Never mind about that. We do have a challenge. We do have a challenge.
Sorry.
I mean, I knew that. I didn't want to mention the obvious.
I exist to make Jackie laugh. Sorry about that.
Well, it worked on that occasion, didn't it? Back to the main subjects. We do have a nation heading for with the wonderful use and the exploitation of AI to its greatest extreme, and how fascinating it all is. And we never quite know where the information comes from ChatGPT or any of the others for that matter. AI, alternative intelligence, I think we perhaps ought to call it, because there's no guarantee that it's 100% accurate. A lot of people are using ChatGPT now, or I should say AI. This type of intelligence we've come across, instead of actually using the actual sort of words themselves, instead of carrying out research, we get AI to do it for us. I'm guilty of that myself, because some of the information that comes through, I think, where the heck did they get that from? And I can get the same information as well through the same sort of kind of intelligence. And much of the time, people are finding software solutions to pick up these wondrous ideas for us and put them into respective places for us to send out reports. And local authority reports are no different from any other reports in that particular sort of sense. There's people trying to make money out of collecting data and simplifying it. What it can't actually guarantee at this particular sort of stage, it may well be 20, 25 years' time, you can guarantee accuracy. We can't necessarily guarantee that accuracy at the moment. No. So what we do have is the unfortunate aspect of somebody, in fact, many people, we're probably speaking about 80% of the people involved with conveyancing need to apply due diligence to a data dump. They're getting far more information than is required, and they have to sift through it to get the appropriate. Now, it's up to the individual that's providing that information to the end user to define what is most important with it, or do they just dump everything they get their hands on? That's really what we're speaking about today.
Well, it's incredible, isn't it, Jackie? There's so much data out there that if you're not careful, that you end up sinking under a sea of inconsequential twaddle. And I suspect it's the IPSA members' duty to try and work our way through it, to try and find stuff that actually is relevant.
Yeah, that's it. When I started 38 years ago working in this industry, conveyancing was a lot quicker. There wasn't as much information requested, but now as people have become more and more aware, the conveyancer has to go through and check. When it comes to searches, you do find stuff that you like. We would have checked. Well, I would have done, and IPSA members check, and you can get information that you just know is not relevant, so you refine it. Where I think sometimes they're just thinking, right, well that'll do. Let's send it out. Let's get it done. Much longer.
Yeah, unfortunately, your connection seems to be a bit faulty at the moment, Jackie. But we'll bear in mind that Hamish, it has vastly changed over the years, as Jackie says. I mean, I suspect there was less access to data, but now with such a morass of it, it must be almost a different focus of the job to spend all your time refining rather than capturing.
I think that is the case. There is just so much there, and do we actually sort of want it? Because it has actually become a scenario, and all you need to do is to look at the number of providers there out there of different types of information, different software systems you can buy into to achieve the appropriate results. What type of connectivity you want, what sort of process you've got internally. It becomes an absolute nightmare for anybody to make a decision as to where they can get the best information from. And I think from that particular perspective, what we need to look at from any solicitor, that the whole object of conveyancing is the transfer of ownership. Straightforward process. That name comes off, that name goes on. And the fact that it's taken land registry up to 2 years to be able to achieve that, differently, I mean, that's a worrying thing, isn't it? That we have got hideous situations out there where people are still waiting from last year sometime, that their names still haven't appeared on the property, although they now own it. But it's just a strange thing. We've just got too much information. Land registry themselves, if you were to ask land registry, compared to this time last year, how many bytes are you actually consuming in your efforts to supply what is, there's not that many more houses getting built, so how many more units are you using this year compared to last year? And basically we're actually going to find, and this is a sad thing, we need to move forward. Yet when you actually sort of look at what is now required in a conventional computer, when you actually think back to, if you want to go back to 2000 or 1995, I think, when I got my first computer, I didn't know what the heck I was getting myself into then. It's even worse now. But there's just so much on there. It needs to become more and more powerful. We need to provide more and more energy to produce more and more data, to house more and more. And then who's going to guarantee that it's now accurate? How are the updates going to come through? I mean, in Jackie's role when he was actually considered as an land charges officer, not only did they put those land charges into the appropriate source folder, okay, with the manual folder, but what they would do, they would update it as time permitted when they became out of date. If somebody took to sign up for 6 months, you would actually take it out, given the opportunity to actually sort of do it. Whereas these days, you don't know when that information is being updated. Land registry haven't told us when all those details are going to be amended. You buy a new property, it's got 150, 175 land charges on it. When does that change to become 1 or 2 land charges? Because obviously once it's built and it's done and it's met all the land charges against it, they should be removed. But do the councils have the time to get in touch with the land registry? All right, you can now remove these charges? Okay.
Well, Hamish, your microphone sounds like it's muffled at the moment. It's slightly indistinct. Have you moved it or anything? Because I'm so sorry about
nothing, this. No.
Okay. Well, I don't know what happened. It sounded like right, but I'm glad we've got you back, Jackie. Let's try yours again. It seems to me that we are now in a crisis of data. There's so much of it, and it's not going to get any easier, is it?
Well, no. To be honest, I think it's going to get harder. Like years ago, we used to go to the library and look at the Encyclopedia Britannica to find out information. Now you just press a button, go on Google and look at what you want to know. I mean, when I'm watching television programs, when I'm watching sport, and I want to know, say, about an Australian rugby league player, I sit there on my phone and look how tall he is, what he weighs when he started playing, when he started playing rugby. The information that's out there is getting far too much. But the thing is, people today want things instantly. They don't want to wait, so long for that information. They don't. We live in a world now where, particularly with conveyancing, there's so much information now that people want, and it comes from as Hamish said, from so many different ages. You have your enviro searches, your water searches, your local search, your anti-money laundering search. You have this search, that search, that we never had 30 odd years ago. But they are needed in today's day and age of the computers, because we know of all the scams, we know what people can do. And now with artificial intelligence coming, we've seen it on television programs recently where people think they're talking to a real human being, and they're not. They're talking to artificial intelligence. Again, it's going to be data that's going to be refined, and you're going to have people that are very knowledgeable refining it. And as I kept some of Hamish's conversation, I couldn't hear it all. And as he said, there's a lot of information that can come off land registry as a development. As you say, they submit planning applications to improve conditions and things like that. All you need then is a copy of a letter to say, yes, all the conditions of this planning applications have been met, instead of revealing 50, 60 planning applications on a search that are not actually necessary. When 20 years down the line, that property was built in 1995, you don't need that information anymore, because you should have something that says, yes, those conditions have been met and everything is A-OK. So you can scrap a lot of the information. Instead of a conveyancer sat there going through, yes, condition 1 was met, the materials were met, this was met, the substation was built, all this and other. Too much information, you've got to refine that data. And as it is, it's people just, excuse me, the cat has...
We've had everything today. We've had microphones failing, internet failing, and cats visiting.
Yeah. The mortgage advisors that are giving mortgages out, perhaps when they look at that data, don't understand it because nobody's explained it to them. Millie, will you go away? Sorry about that. She's coming because it started throwing it down. Hooray, rain.
Well, good. Well, look, the gardeners and the gardens of the world will thank you for that. But the rest of us are just, here she is again. Hello, Millie.
Hello, Millie.
Wonderful.
Yeah, but also the water companies. I know the reservoirs down in Yorkshire are down to 20% of their usual capacity at this time. So it is getting bad.
All right. Hamish, I think, if you wouldn't mind just summarising, and then we can close the show.
Yes, I want my lunch. I want my lunch.
There you go.
I think what we have to apply due diligence to the dump of data that we're currently receiving. But one of the worst aspects is what all of us have to look at: is it current? Is it up to date? We're doing some work last week. Sort of team of us, and we actually conclude, right, we'll get going on it to find out that we got a land registry plan, which was July, all right, but it was July 2024 as opposed to 2025. We've spoken about this before. Now, has there anything changed between 20? We don't know. That does need to be interrogated. So if we have to sort of try and keep updating all this information, it's going to take twice as long. And as Jackie intimated there, what we're getting is data after data after data after data. One of the ways I explain it very, very simply is when you have a new development, you have phases within that development. When you get to phase 4, you don't necessarily want the information that started off in phase 1. The roads are different, the houses are different. It's a different developer. The plans are totally different. But the road, the buildings are totally different to those that are now in phase 4. So do you need the information about all of those phases coming together, and which of them is the most accurate? Because very often conditions can get overturned anyway, and they turn around and say, oh, well, we can't get hold of that material. Can we build the properties in such and such a material? And it just goes on and on and on. So where do we end all of this? We've
Not
got...
at all. Well, I understand, and Kat's face is not being washed, notwithstanding. Thank you so much, Jackie, for taking time out your day to spend this with us, and Hamish McClay, thank you so much as well, and to all of you out there. As you can see, it's a very friendly fellowship, all seeking to help each other. All tides rise, all ships. And as I say, if you want to be part of this, please do contact IPSA, find out more. Or if you are looking for the search agents that go one step further and often far faster than the factory type style that there is out there right now, I would suggest looking at IPSA. Until next week, please keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and look after that mental health. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Bye, Millie says.
I says